Hi, everyone. Good morning. Since it's a huge room to fill on a Sunday morning, it would be great if some of you could just come down to the lower end, and you can then play with the fortune teller that we have left behind for you with all the key findings of our report. So if you can, please do come down. Thank you. We'll start in just a couple of minutes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be here in Stockholm for Stockholm World Water Week. We're all a bit jet-lagged, as I'm sure half this room is at this moment. So we are hoping that the next 90 minutes are going to make sense for you and it's going to wake you up. The Asian Development Bank is very proud to have assembled this level of expertise in this room to what we hope will be a tone-setting discussion for the rest of the week. And to give you some more context on this, I'm going to invite our Director General, Cleo Kawawaki, to come and give you a sense of what to expect in the next 90 minutes and what really is the AWDO. Cleo, the stage is yours.
This on? Okay, great. First of all, it's such a beautiful day outside, you know? We're so grateful that you're here because I'd rather be outside as well, sorry. So, good morning, distinguished guests and colleagues and partners and friends. It's a pleasure to welcome you here for this session on the Asian Water Development Outlook. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this as usual. Do I say AWDO or AWDO? Okay, AWDO. I always thought it was AWDO. But here at the Stockholm World Water Week, this session asked a critical question: can Asia and Pacific achieve water security by 2035? And perhaps more importantly, how can we make it happen? In my current role, I mean, I've only had this job since February, but I'm the Director General for Sectors Department 2, and I have the privilege of leading a very diverse team, which is dedicated to serving our developing member countries in delivering integrated solutions in critical areas of agriculture, food, nature, rural development to urban development and digitalization, and of course, water security. Well, I have to make a confession that I am an ex-investment banker. Yeah, I'm still recovering from that. But infrastructure banker in the Asian Development Bank for 25 years. And it's taught me some important truth. Water is not just a sector concern. It's the foundation of economic growth, community well-being, and environmental resilience. You know, over the 35 years of my career, I've seen firsthand how projects can succeed or struggle or even fail, depending on how effectively water security is factored into the planning, investment, and governance. That's why AWDO is such a critical tool. Since its inception in 2007, it has provided a clear and consistent framework to measure water security in Asia and Pacific, track the progress made and trends, and identify priority action. Okay, AWDO offers an evidence-based response providing fresh data and insight from 50 countries across 5 key dimensions of water security. Each edition, 2007, 2013, 2016, 2020, and now 2025, has evolved to address the changing realities of our region and deepen our understanding of water's role in sustainable development. Today's session offers you an advanced peek at AWDO 2025, the most comprehensive edition yet, which we will officially launch later this year. I think it's in December, right? At the IWA Water and Development Congress in Bangkok. You will also hear about its key findings, the progress that has been made, and the urgent challenges that remain. Most importantly, we will discuss how AWDO's insights can be applied to real-world projects, policies, and partnerships. We have a very exciting, excellent set of speakers and panelists today. Those who have shaped AWDO's methodologies and findings, and global experts who will challenge us to broaden our perspectives. Please participate actively, ask questions, share your experiences, and think with us about how to translate this knowledge into action. For me, AWDO is more than just a report. And it would be such a waste if it was just a report. It's a bridge between technical evidence and human realities. It is also a blueprint for action, placing greater emphasis on climate resilience, gender equality, digital innovation, and inclusive development. Achieving water security by 2035 will require more than good intentions. Let's face it, we've said it so many times, right? It's by 2030, it's by 2025, now we're saying 2035. This really requires commitment, collaboration, and courage to act on what the evidence really tells us to do. I'd like to say a heartfelt thanks to all the speakers and partners from Global Water Partnership, Oxford University, International Water Management Institute, University of Queensland, Griffith University, International Water Center, IHE Deaf Institute for Water Education, and International Center for Water Hazard and Risk Management, Watermark, and the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. A special thanks to Additional Secretary Ms. Archana Burma, from the Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India. Further, I would like to thank the funders, yes, all important funders. The Japan Fund for Prosperous and Resilient Asia and Pacific from the Government of Japan, and the Urban Resilient Trust Fund funded by the UK government for providing the funding for AWDO 2025. I look forward to a rich discussion today and working towards a water-secure future for Asia and the Pacific and for our shared planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cleo, for setting that tone. To wake you all up, I'm going to start the presentation to kind of share some of the findings on 2025, but I'm going to start with a pop quiz. So if you were listening carefully to Cleo, most of the answers were there. So let's start with, when was the last edition of AWDO released by ADB? We're going to go old school, just show your hands, right? Because we didn't want to complicate it with Menti and asking you to pull out your phone. So 2019, raise your hands. 2020. Hank, I'm looking at you, you didn't pay attention? All right, it was 2019. So, all right. Now, this one you don't have the answer to, but what do you think is the most water-secure country in Asia and the Pacific according to AWDO 2025? Any guesses? Japan, raise your hands. Okay, one or two. People's Republic of China. A few more. Australia. Cleo, you know the answer. You're going to put it down. All right. Australia, Australia, Australia. Okay, you're right. It's Australia for all those who said Australia. Now, just the last question here. Which region do you think leads in overall water security performance this time around? South Asia, show of hands. East Asia, a few hands have gone up. Southeast, Oh, Hank, not your day today. It's East Asia. All right. Okay, with that, let's start. The Asian Water Development Outlook Report, we are defining it as the definitive index for water security since 2007. AWDO has served in all its editions as a key piece of work to guide practitioners, to guide decision makers on where the trends are, how do you benchmark progress and identify where the gaps could be. We request you one thing when we'll be sharing some of the early findings, right? Look big picture. Don't get stuck with just some of the data sets. We're all aware of certain data quality, reliability of data. Our team and team of experts has worked very hard to make sure that this remains the most robust data set available. You might be wondering, why are we doing so many soft launches? Right? We decided that it's too important to just release all the findings in one venue in December. We wanted to create a pathway for people to continue to engage with this report and the findings that it contains. More importantly, we wanted it to lead to an important dialogue between all of you in the room, with your clients, as well as with ADB. We are trying very hard to not compare countries with one another, right? Compare within itself. See the trends within the country. As human beings, we want to always compare and say, how did this country do vis-a-vis this country? Yes, you will be able to extrapolate that from the findings, but that's not the focus here. We will be releasing more information, more case studies, more human interest stories based on this in the coming few months in multiple other conferences from here to December. So let's start with thanking our partners. Many of them are here in the room. We have a big team that's also probably joined us online. And for all of those participants online, thank you again. But we wanted to make sure that this is not done by just one institute alone. The breadth of intellectual curiosity and the breadth of intellectual heft that went into this data in the last year or so has been remarkable. And we really do want to thank and acknowledge our partners here. So how do we measure water security? AWDO assesses water security, as Cleo mentioned, in 50 countries using a multi-dimensional framework. It serves to be able to help you across various dimensions on water, from rural household to urban household, ecosystems, biodiversity, and then water-related disaster security. Each of them has a score of around 20, which we then band together into an index when we are planning, and we place them across 5 steps, from nascent all the way to model. In the 5 key dimension framework, we have a robust methodology supporting this. If you look at it, there are sub-indicators, and we've been able to mark out the data sets that we are pulling this out from. These are publicly available data sets, verified by the government. But the idea here today is not to go too much into the methodology and the sub-indicators, but to go a little bit more into the findings. And in panel 1, we'll be able to share a little bit more, our experts, about the methodology, if there are any questions on that. So in this time around, we also strengthened the methodology in 2025. In each round, we've been able to do that. But in this round, for example, in rural household water security, thanks to our team in University of Oxford, the focus is not just on the infrastructure, but on the service delivery. And how does it have, what's the impact it has on health? And what is the climate resilience towards this infrastructure that has been built? We also went beyond the numbers. Right? Yes, this is an academic and sometimes an academician's perspective, but a qualitative perspective. We took 5 key lenses and tried to see, what does this number tell us about gender and heat? What does it tell us about glacial melt and transboundary issues? What does this tell us about water governance? We also shared, we invited youth to review this report and share some perspectives from the youth on how these findings could be enhanced from their perspective. So without further ado, let's start with a sneak peek into the findings. So since the last 12 years, we've been able to estimate that 1.8 billion people have been lifted from extreme water insecurity. Let that sink in for a minute. Very often, we don't really pause to acknowledge the incredible work that is done by most people to see this is still a remarkable number. Yes, there are many more left behind, but this is quite remarkable. We have successful stories. Oh, I see some applause there. Thank you, ma'am. We have PRC, which is leading the way with incredible efforts in rural wash infrastructure. We've got Cambodia, and we have been able to show their efforts in urban wash has been able to give them a good jump in their scores. India, with strong political commitment, targeted investments, definitely makes it in the top 3 of great performers since 2013. I'm going to walk you through very quickly on regional highlights, and then we can hopefully the panel can answer a lot more questions, and I'll be happy to support you right after as well. East Asia remains the regional leader across all the dimensions. There is a 52% increase in their total score from 2013. The WASH coverage in People's Republic of China has been able to jump predominantly because 90% of the rural population currently has access to WASH. They've been helped by strong political commitment as well as their investment in water conservancy. Central and West Asia, 8 out of the 11 countries, 50% of the population now has access to piped water supply. Yes, there is some issues around water disaster resilience, which remains fragile, and we can talk a little bit about that in the slide later. Southeast Asia has also made gains in rural wash infrastructure. Their planning on disaster resilience has been strong. Yes, there are some vulnerabilities, and we'll be able to dive deeper in the next few months as to where those vulnerabilities lie so governments can actually improve that. South Asia, India, Nepal, being able to lift so many millions of people from open defecation to safely or basic sanitation has definitely given it a jump in the score. 234% increase in health outcomes for India alone, which can be seen, which also goes to show that infrastructure can come first, but health outcomes trail. You need some time to be able to see it. And that's one of the reasons, if one of you is wondering why we're looking at 2013 edition and not the last one, is because we felt that it's important to give 12 years to be able to manage and see where the trends lie. The gestation period in this sector is way too long. Finally, the Pacific. Yes, they have been able to improve on energy and renewability of energy, but it still remains fragile. Disaster resilience and all that infrastructure has not been able to lead into the corresponding health outcomes just yet. So if you look at East Asia, China and Mongolia in this region are showing some great improvements in their scores. There is a success of, hold on, give me 1 sec, I lost my, too many statistics to remember. So 96% of the rural population in China now has access to piped water supply, 93% to basic sanitation, 72% to piped water. It is a leader in disaster resilience in many, many fronts. They have been able to make deliberate investments and strong institutions to support them, and we have the data to show that. They have made some significant improvements to flood control systems and emergency responses, so therefore scoring a bit higher on KD5, which is around water-related disasters, has also helped them. Their investments of around 187 billion has also gone towards being able to show strong improvements about investments following with infrastructure and then to be able to see that in health. In Southeast Asia, it's about balancing the progress with environmental pressures. Their KD4 score, which is around environmental water security, you could see it on a little bit of fragile. Right? While they are making gains in providing rural infrastructure, urban infrastructure for WASH, there are some important missing gaps with national adaptation plans. Their preparedness is growing fast, but the rising sea levels threaten their current gains. We have improvements in Vietnam, which is one of the front runners in this region, deliberate investments again, strong community engagement shows positive results. Philippines, while it's made a lot of investments in infrastructure, their health outcomes remain to be caught up. We have Timor-Leste and Laos, which are dealing with issues around open defecation. At a glance, if you see, it still is a 10% increase in their water security index, which again shows a positive upward trend, but still requires a little bit of work, actually a lot of work, to be able to address these gaps. I'm going to go a bit faster because I don't want to run out of time, but the Central and West Asia, again, shows gains in rural access, but gaps do remain again. Right? They have made some improvements in rural water security. Urban sanitation improved in Turkey. Piped infrastructure, especially in Uzbekistan, shows that it scored well in that, but it's old legacy infrastructure, so it's in need of incredible, fast-working maintenance. There is poor quality national adaptation plans, and that does require to be looked into, and therefore KD5 scores require a little bit of improvement hopefully in the next 5 years. What we are trying to show with each of these gaps is opportunities for investment, opportunities for intervention, and hopefully in the next couple of panels, we'll be able to give you a pathway to see by investing in certain gaps, this is the improvement you could have in the score. South Asia remains, again, a strong beacon with performances from India as well as Nepal in rural sanitation, right, which has been able to bring out millions of people from open defecation to basic sanitation. But gaps remain. But it is time to acknowledge the important investment, the political commitment that went into this region to be able to show this kind of progress. 100% piped coverage in Bhutan. Right? The Swachh Bharat program in India shows incredible momentum to be able to provide this kind of sanitation to millions of people. At a glance, we are also, I've not been talking about it during this presentation, but we are also working on estimating the investment needs required in each region. And hopefully one of our panelists will be able to touch upon that as well. The Pacific, we all acknowledge it's unique, but significant water security challenges do remain. There has been a strong gain in rural wash. The population-weighted piped water access remains still at 16%. It's the only region with a net decline in disaster security. While, as I mentioned before, there has been an investment. I think that's all the time we have today, folks, so thank you very much. Let's give it a minute. All right. As I mentioned before, there has been some improvements in renewables, right? So therefore, helping them score a little bit around water productivity. However, it still requires, and it remains one of the most insecure in KD2, which is economic water security. In a nutshell, let me try and summarize very quickly what we found, and I won't repeat some of the statistics that you're going to see here. Climate change is reversing water security gains faster than the systems can adapt. Significant number of people still remain vulnerable to climate change. Budgets are focusing on disaster response, not prevention. Nothing new, we have heard this before. However, early warnings without lack of community outreach, without engaging the communities, is not having the desired effect that you'd like. And of course, in the Pacific, it remains as a rising risk. Something, again, I think everybody in the room will agree on. In times of disaster, communities matter most. There is enough examples, which we will be releasing in the next few months, of when the community was involved. For example, in Nepal, when you involve the women, the results are actually better. So to be able to work with women, inclusion matters. And we have a statistic here, just one of the early ones, to say that those projects that actually train staff are 2 times more likely to have better results. Right, so nothing, I mean, I see plenty of nodding heads in the room, but yeah. Finally, again, something I think most of you will know, infrastructure does not always equal the health outcomes that you want, right? Without affordability, maintenance, ecosystem support, institutional backing, governance, right? Not just a plan, but a plan that's put into action is very much required. Millions still face unreliable supply due to high costs, poor maintenance, and weak governance, and this needs to be addressed. In conclusion, 4 billion still at risk, which is not a small number, and that is hopefully what we are aiming to do in the next 10 years or so. How do we lift these 4 billion people to a model water security status? With that, I'd like to just invite you all to the AWDO launch in December as well, and just do, we've kept some flyers on your chair. Do scan it and just sign up for updates on AWDO. And in case you're wondering, what will we be doing next, besides preparing for the launch, of course, and to release all the data, is we've got an approach. While this is looking at macro data across all countries, we are planning something called micro AWDOs, right? Each country, a deep dive, to be able to help and support governments as well as all the development professionals there on where do we identify opportunities for not just investment, opportunities for institutional interventions, policy support, capacity building, to be able to then work towards the goal of a 2035 water-secure Asia and the Pacific. So with that, thank you very much for this presentation, and I'm going to hand it to my colleague Lance, who will be taking you into panel 1 and some more insights into the report. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Vivek. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lance. I'm going to be your moderator for this first panel. And the panel, if I'd like to invite them up onto the stage, is Dr. Katrina Charles, Academic Director in the Water Science and Policy and Management team at the University of Oxford, and was the lead partner for our Key Dimension 1 on rural water security. We have Dr. Fulko Ludwig, Strategic Program Director. You might need to come up this side. It's okay?
Do you want us in order?
I don't know. For the International Water Management Institute and lead partner for Key Dimension 2. We have Satoshi Ishii, Director at ADB and colleague for our Strategy Department's Water and Urban Development Sector Office. My Director, Jiangfang Zhang, who's in the Agriculture, Food, Natural Resources, and talking about KD4, and Dr. Suzanne Schmeier, who is the head of Water Governance Department at IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, partner and our lead partner for KD5. So just to kick off, one of the first surprising statistics for me was just the fact that over the last 10 or so years, we've actually in our region managed to improve the lives and the water security for 1.8 billion people. And that is a huge number. And I think everyone in the region working on that deserves a pat on the back. Of course, a lot of that was experienced in PRC, People's Republic of China, and in India. But what that shows is that it is possible. There are models to do this. We've still got a long way to go for 4 billion more people. But it shows that if we can learn on these countries that have had success, we can replicate that in some of the other countries. We're going to be on the winning path. So just with the first sort of icebreaker question, maybe an open question to all of you, is what were some of the surprising results?
Can we sit?
You are more than welcome to sit. I am not the boss of the seat.
No, we're fine, we're fine.
But some of you might like to stand, but you're welcome to sit as well.
No, be careful.
So what are some of your first reactions to some of the numbers that we presented today? I mean, you know the KDs already so well. You can talk about your own KDs, but what's something surprising you think the audience might go, huh, I didn't know that. We can go with you first.
Do I have to press anything? No,
No.
it works. Okay, great. Well, it was mentioned in the presentation earlier, but I think it's really important to take a step back and acknowledge that again, that a lot of progress has been made. Because typically when we talk about water security and all the dimensions that we're looking at here, we typically have a rather negative idea, and there is still a lot of work to do in terms of water security worldwide. But I think what has been achieved in Asia is something that we should, everyone, really be proud of. But what I find worrisome, to come back to the doom and gloom perspective that we often have in the water sector, is the equity question and how the wins that have been made are being distributed rather unevenly, not only across the different regions, as was shown in the introductory presentation, but also across different population groups, but also between humans and non-humans. It also has also been mentioned how some of the progress comes in Southeast Asia, for example, at the expense of the environment. So progress, but also lots of challenges.
Thank you. Katrina?
And I guess I would add to that. I mean, I think there's, it's amazing to see the progress and to see it all come together in those statistics as well. But also looking at that progress since 2013, where do we think we'll be in that next 12-year period, given how much we see climate change starting to influence these results, how much we can see through these assessments that only 17 countries have NAPs. We're not quite there yet to manage the risks that come forward as well.
Okay. How about gentlemen? Any initial surprising reviews?
No, maybe I think in some cases what surprised me the most is that for also for climate and things like, we still don't have the kind of good indicators because we use the NAPAs and that's a good, but just having a plan is not going to make you more resilient. And I think the indicators that we use are a good indication of what's happening, but it doesn't mean that, what we use as indicators is also the wide array of progress. I think especially for adaptation, we talked about the communities, but we talk about also integrating it into different sectors. It's what's critical. So there, I think we can still make progress also in the AWDO. And I thought we had better indicators, but it's really difficult to get the data for all the different countries. And I think this is why we had to use, maybe inferior indicators where they might be superior, but we just didn't have the data of all of that. So that's also what surprised me still. Yeah.
Thank you. Satoshi.
Yeah, so first I'd like to thank the Stephen Kenway and also Regina Sauter from the Queensland University, Griffith University, and AWC who did the analysis. Actually, I'm just taking this role on behalf of them, and then apparently a lot of analysis went into the urban water security, and then we have several subsectors of the indicators like safely managed sanitation, water supply, but also interesting one is like affordability of the services. And of course, in urban, we talk about climate change and the environment degradations and so on. Apparently, in a way, the ADB invested a lot on urban water space, and then we know that how infrastructure works in Asia Pacific. So we kind of expected the kind of linear steady progress in water supply sanitation, and then maybe a bit of wobbling up and down in climate change and environment space because it's already challenging in the water. But I think maybe something that we want to discuss further, but then this affordability piece is very interesting for us. And it's also, we knew that, but having this AWDO results is really kind of telling us that, this is a very challenging issue of the affordabilities. And, we may have to zoom into further into this analysis so that, it's going to guide us where and which country that we're going to work more in terms of policy regulatory framework to make sure that access is one thing, but then apparently quality of the service, affordability is also very important for the urban water security. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I've got specific questions, so maybe we'll go through those and they'll dive deeper into maybe some of the points you've already highlighted. So maybe, Katrina, starting with you. KD1 tells us while WASH infrastructure has improved significantly, health outcomes are still lagging in many countries. In your view, why is that happening?
Thanks, and it's really great to be here and to have so many people here today as well. What we were looking at with KD1 was around rural household water security, so very much focused on the WASH space, and we had indicators firstly looking at that level of infrastructure, so WASH infrastructure, which was built off the JMP data. As Foucault has already mentioned, data that this is built on is important, that it's comparable, that it's the government's agree that that data is genuine as well. So we use the Joint Monitoring Programme data, which was a cumulative index of access to water, including safely managed and piped access, access to sanitation, and hygiene as well for the first time. And then what we did was compare it to health outcomes. So we have this promise in WASH that WASH is going to deliver improvements in health, and particularly reduction in diarrheal disease. So what we looked at was the relationship between that WASH infrastructure and whether we're seeing those outcomes in terms of under 5 deaths from diarrhea and disability-adjusted life years from diarrhea in school-aged children. And what we see is that, poor countries with poor infrastructure have poor health outcomes. Countries with good WASH infrastructure, though, some of them, yes, have great health outcomes, but not all of them. And so when we look at why some countries have good infrastructure but not achieving those health outcomes, we're seeing the 3 main areas. One is those who have better health outcomes have more access to safely managed services. So they're actually getting services that go beyond the infrastructure, they're better water quality, they're more reliable, so that they have access to better quality services. They have access, secondly, they have access to WASH outside the home. And so particularly looked at schools. So school WASH in those countries was higher. So people getting access to WASH in more places. And lastly, as has been pointed out already, there were more resources for rural WASH. We see from the GLASS data from WHO that these countries also had capacity and budgets to help them advance rural WASH and to deliver higher quality services. And that's what we need to really deliver the health outcomes that we want to see from rural WASH.
Very good, thank you. Moving to KD2, which is on the economic water security. Fulco. KD2 highlights that the economic water security progress varies a lot across countries, with high-income economies linking many of their gains to renewable energy. From your perspective, how can renewable energy play a role in driving economic water security?
Okay. Yeah, maybe first on the diversity in terms of progress that we made. I think it is worth mentioning that especially at the kind of middle-income, lower middle-income countries, there's a few countries who've made tremendous improvements. Those are countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Laos. That is really where we see that countries are improving, not because they're using less water, but because the water they use, actually, they give a higher economic returns, especially in agriculture, more efficient irrigation, higher yields, higher value crops. In addition, that we see that the sustainable energy is also a lot of progress in countries. In the Mekong Basin, we see that a lot of additional dams have been developed, which has helped people to become more self-sufficient in terms of energy, which is also an important indicator in our work. Mean more self-sufficient in terms of water because there's more storage. And that can help countries to also become aligned and having a higher water security. Same time, other forms of storage can also help. It doesn't have to be big dams. It can also be increasing groundwater infiltration. It can be natural lakes, natural wetlands, helping to increase that storage, which can also help these countries to become more resilient to climate change, because that storage can be used in dry seasons, which in a lot of these countries is the critical factor.
Thank you, yeah. Storage is going to become a key, I think, in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, moving KD3 on urban water. Satoshi, back to you.
Yeah.
We have seen rising household incomes improve affordability in some countries, while in some others, stagnant growth and inflation have made the gap even worse. In your view, what kinds of mechanisms or policies work best to improve affordability when the economic context is so volatile?
Yeah, thank you. So, first, I don't have the one single answer to talk about mechanism or, of course, policy. And but as I said, that all this urban water security is not just about the access, and then we really have to be the affordable and the quality of service. And if you look at the this indicator, it's very interesting. It's not only that Asia Pacific is really still growing from water supply to sanitation and also disaster risk. So they're basically moving this rather upwards in terms of the water security. But then affordability is the piece that we can actually bring some countries down because of those the country's macroeconomic situation, also the household income. Of course, actively, positively acting on the affordability, but at the same time, as you said, inflation or even the cost of water, and then also some of the country has the more maintenance and investment necessary to maintain their system, which actually brings affordability at risk as well. So in several countries, for example, Nepal, for example, who actually had a tariff increased, but actually their quality of service is not following the amount. So that actually, especially for those poor and vulnerable populations are really suffering from paying the higher tariff, but then actually their quality has not been improving. Turkmenistan, for example, they actually started charging the water since 2018. So of course there are a bit of concern on affordability as well. Now tariff is coming. MDB is always kind of trying to encourage the cost recoveries, and we are bank, and then we have been talking to the client that this is something that you have to do it, but then this has to be done in a right sequence and right way, and a good transition that we have to support. It's really something that we have to, care about. And the Pacific Islands also several countries or islands are really, they have a very strong culture that, they don't pay for the water. Water is just given, for example. And it's very challenging to, talk about affordability. So again, long story short, we don't have a right answer, but the point is that as MDB, we really have to, strategize with each country, tailor our, the intervention. Like Cambodia, Phnom Penh, they have been cross-subsidizing, charging to the rich people and then subsidizing the poor people. And of course, we talk about 3T approaches like, tariff, tax, transfer. So we have to have a good blend of those instruments in each country. And that's something that AWDO made us realize that, we may have to really look into or zoom into the country very specifically. And then also, last bit is that we just also received the independent evaluation department who evaluate our operation is putting some draft recommendation that ADB has been making effort on this affordability and so on, but that's not enough. We have been paying too much attention to the access and then the laying the pipes, but then our indicators are not really the pushing or encouraging the team towards more those affordability, quality of service. And that's something that, we really have to improve in the coming years. And I think this AWDO exercise is really, good, evidence for us to back up those arguments.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know from my own perspective that we can design a perfect project to optimally use water, but if it's not operated and maintained well, it's no longer working optimally, which means it's no longer providing the water security that you thought it would have. So investing in O&M is critical, really. Moving to Zhangfang on KD4, environmental water security. This highlights a lot of intersections between water security and ecosystem health. What do you see as the implications of this for setting development, finance, project priorities?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, it's great that AWDO has included the sustainability environment as a part of the key dimension for the water security. Actually, we have absorbed that many of the development need for example, for industrialization, urbanization, has made at the sacrifice of the key water systems. And from our experience side, we feel that it's very important, for example, at the 3 levels. One is at the policy level. We need to further work with our DMCs in improving the regulatory framework for better integration between development infrastructure as well as the green principles. And here I would just want to share one example. In Philippines, ADB supported the government in transforming the National Water Resource Board into the National Water Management Council to streamline water resource management. And related to policy, another important aspect actually is on the financing architecture. And innovative financing will help to also enable transition to the green economies when we are working on the water-related initiatives. For example, ADB has established the Natural Solution Financing Hub, as well as the Asian Pacific Natural Capital Fund to help to drive the nature-based investment. The second key priorities I will see at the planning level. In planning, for example, ADB is supporting DMCs to mainstream nature-based solution and ecosystem conservation in infrastructure development. We leverage our expertise into planning and engineering guidelines. In Philippines, it's a good example. For example, we work with the Ministry of Public Works in updating the norms and the standards for river improvement in a holistic way, ensuring the nature-based solution would be considered as key elements for infrastructure development. We also develop capacity building programs for engineers and planners to complement those efforts. And the third priority then comes at the project level. While policy promoting more ecosystem approach, we have opportunities to finance investment that combine infrastructure and intervention for sustaining long-term water security, climate resilience, and public health. The Yangtze River Economic Belt, Jiangxi Ecological Civilization and Circular Economy project in PRC is a good example. It addresses wastewater pollution in rural areas and old urban neighborhood, enhance river basin ecological health and climate resilience, and promotes low-carbon circular economy. It combines investments in infrastructure, policy reforms, and institutional strengthening. In summary, I will see that the 2025 AWDO report will help us to bring the dialogue with our partners to another level and leverage our assistance towards healthier catchment and aquatic system for an inclusive and climate resilient growth.
Thank you, Zhang Fei. And lastly, over to you, Suzanne. KD5 shows the weaknesses in disaster readiness are severely compromising water security. From your perspective, what policy, community-led or financing levers, should be pulled to tackle this?
Yeah, thanks. Let me stand up. I think it's a key question, and I think it illustrates the interdependencies and the need for integrated approaches that I think we see across all the 5 KDs, but the disaster one I think is an interesting one. Just to give an example from the Mekong region, that's a region I know particularly well, you mentioned the dams earlier and the improvements in energy security that have indeed been made, but if you look at the dams, they're also a major issue when it comes to disaster risks and disaster risk management, and we've seen some horrendous impacts of dam-related disaster in the Mekong on tributary dams in the past years, and I think there's more expected to come over the next decades, unfortunately, as a consequence of climate change. So for me, addressing these interdependencies, specifically in relation to disaster, but also more broadly in an integrated perspective, I think there are 3 elements that we need to address better at all levels, from the very local community level all the way up to the regional, transboundary, and maybe even global perspective. And I'd say those are policy coherence, capacity development, and obviously financing, as always. That's always part of the answer, right? And I think policy coherence is something where there's really still some progress to be made. It was mentioned, for example, earlier in the overview presentation that in Central Asia there has been, let's say less policy reform than we would have liked to see, which is compromising disaster preparedness, but also lots of other elements that are covered in AWDO. And I think that's really an issue at all levels, from the communities all the way up to the governments, that needs to be addressed, and that I think there's more work to be done. But I also think it's capacity development in the disaster space, but also anywhere else. It's typically not enough to know what the problem is and to be warned, and a lot of progress has been made on the warning side over the last years, with better warning systems, better infrastructure, but it's also about knowing what to do at the central government level, at the provincial level, but also at the very individual local community level. You hear the warning, a flood is coming, maybe even from a dam release, an unplanned or planned but not informed dam release upstream. So what do you do? And there we see that actually a lot of the progress that has been made on disaster, about half of it, the data shows, is driven by capacity improvement. So not so much only infrastructure, money, and so on, but capacity. And we see that here, especially the progress being made in East Asia has really been driven by capacity improvement. But we also see that, to a large extent, a reason why the Pacific islands are still lagging behind also relates to that capacity dimension. So I think that's important to bring that in. And then, of course, last but not least, financing. And by that, I do not mean necessarily more money, but more money in a policy coherent and capacity-oriented manner. So making sure that we don't have all these different projects, but really streamline them in international budgets, international financing, budgeting cycles, and really make them owned by national governments, but also all the way to the communities, and to really bring these three dimensions together. And I know that's much easier said than done, but I think those are the starting points. And if you want to know more about the data, the different work that, or the different data points, the different data sets we covered in the analysis, I'd love to connect you to my colleague William Verbeek, who should actually be sitting here, who is not available. So if you have very data-specific questions, please come to me. I'd be happy to connect you to him.
Great, thank you so much. Some very good points there. So I think we've got time, Vivek, we've got time for a few questions from the audience.
We're just running a few minutes behind, but I think we're okay.
Let's see. Do we see any hands raised? I'm looking through bright lights here, so yeah. So I think we've got two hands here. Yes, let's go.
Do I need a mic or can you hear me?
Do we have a mic?
We can actually hear you. Great, let's just go. I'm Andy Roby, I'm in the Foreign Office. It's great to see our logo up there. I have no idea what we're funding.
Which speaks to my point.
Great job. No, thank you, really. I'm really impressed by the analytics. And so on. But I guess my question was really from that question about climate change and how you fear for the future of the region in terms of the investments already made. Have you seen any examples of countries raising revenue not just to maintain the infrastructure that's been invested in, but also to invest in the resilience going forward? Thank you.
Who would like to? Maybe we'll take another question while we think about the answer to that one. Yes, sir.
Hello, good morning. My name is Muyatwa Sitali from Sanitation and Water for All Partnership. Really brilliant presentation this morning from Vivek, sharing with us the information and also the insights that have come from the panel. I have one question. It touches on something Vivek mentioned, and I think Dr. Susan Schmeier, you also touched. You spoke about something that I would like to ask. What has been the role of political leadership in the countries where you've seen progress, or even countries where you haven't seen progress? You talked of India and Bhutan, and when you were highlighting some of the factors or the drivers behind progress, you didn't mention that, Dr. Susan. So I just wonder if this is something that you would like to reflect on. And I ask that because we work a lot in that area, and we'll be hosting a meeting for ministers in Spain across the world in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, who would like to take the questions? Jiankang.
Let me respond to the question on the climate change impact, as well as while we are supporting our DMCs on enhancing climate resilience, as well as climate adaptation. But you raise a very good question, how we can also, during this very important exercise, also to come up with the revenue part. I think this is a very interesting question. Let me just use examples of the substantial amount of work we're doing on the flood risk management in different countries. With the flood risk management, then, for example, the farmers will have the confidence in terms of enhanced resilience. Then the farmers will have the confidence to move forward on crop diversification, as well as on other key initiatives. Similarly, also, for example, the private sector will feel the confidence with the enhanced climate resilience to come in to support, to work together with the farmers in providing the marketing linkages for the farmers in coming up with good, for example, practice, good, for example, also coming up with very market-oriented production for the farmers so that the farmers can get higher profit, higher revenue. And similarly, actually, we are from ADB side, we are also looking into together with the flood risk management and resilient river basin initiative. We are moving forward. We are also talking with, for example, insurance industry to introduce this kind of insurance mechanism to support the countries on their revenue. I stop here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. I think there was a question for you, Suzanne. Yeah.
I can try to take that one. I mean, I think the role of political leadership, or sometimes we also call it political willingness, is key. But then I'm thinking, coming from a governance background, we've been preaching that for a long time, and in the more research-related field, we've been trying to get our head around what is that with political leadership and willingness, and why is that not working? We always call for it, but nothing is changing. So I think one key element for me that comes out of the work we do at IHE Delft is the question of benefits. So very often in the water sector, either in the very specific water-related disaster space or the broader sectors that were here represented, we very much speak from a water community to water community, preaching to the converted perspective, but a lot of decisions that are being taken to make a difference when it comes to WASH, when it comes to disaster preparedness and management, and all these topics, when it comes to protecting the environment, are taken somewhere else, are taken in ministries of planning, or taken in ministries of finance, ministry of the economies. And I think as a water sector, we've not been very good at communicating the benefits of why it's useful to protect the environment, to improve WASH even for marginalized communities that maybe otherwise nobody cares about, to prepare for disasters that maybe nobody's thinking about yet, why that is useful, especially for those outside of the water sector. And I think there is more work to be done on that, but I also think products like the AWDO are really crucial because they present this data in a condensed form that's relatively easy, I would say, to understand for a non-water policymaker and can really be a tool to push for that leadership, I hope at least.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I think we need to move on with the schedule, so I'd like to give a round of applause to our panelists and to yourselves for listening. Thank you. And here I'm going to hand over to my colleague Tanya, who's going to moderate the next session, I believe. Yeah? Okay, well done, team.
I'll be the next one also as well, right? Hot seat.
I'd like to invite our panelists, if we go to the next slide. Satoshi, I'm glad you stay to be the bridge between the first panel on AWDO and to the rest of the world. I'd like to invite Henk Ovink from the Global Commission on Economics for Water, Alex Simalabi from the Global Water Partnership, Ms. Achani Varma, Ministry of Jal Shakti, the government of India. Please come forward. You can decide whether you sit or whether you stand or whether you lean or hang or whatever you like. And last but not least, Alex Money, Watermarks and Oxford University. So I think this is quite an exciting panel where we really move beyond AWDO. We're going to look into how AWDO can play a role in measuring water security worldwide. My name is Tanya Huizer. I'm quite honored to moderate this panel. It's an exciting group of experts from all different sectors in terms of government and so on. So let's explore together how AWDO can contribute to measuring water security worldwide. And also, I hope that we can discuss some governance challenges, partnerships, maybe cross-sectoral water resilience investment at a global scale. But I also hope that we get some bold ideas from maybe the planning of the government of India or maybe Oxford's finance tools. So let's discuss that as well. Before I go to the panel, I actually like to address in the room and check in with our future generations. Because we don't have young professionals here in the panel, but we definitely want to give you a voice. So in the Q&A, I hope you really raise your hands, and I would like to give the floor to you to ask questions to this fantastic panel. Okay, let's move on, given the time. First of all, I like to start with Satoshi, of course, to bridge the first panel with this panel. And as being one of the driving forces together with Vivek behind AWDO, we're really curious to hear ADB's perspective on how strategic partnerships can be used more effectively, to position water security at the center of the global development agendas. And of course, what role can AWDO play in shaping that narrative?
Thank you very much. I think it's rather, in a way, the easy to answer question, maybe the first one. I think I also want to reflect the Sitari's first panel question as well, how to mobilize the leadership as well. So, I mean, AWDO is really a tool, right? And it's very important to see the kind of the reality check on where we are. And we have been discussing a lot internally in ADB, and then this is really, Vivek and then Tanya and everybody, my team's work. What we have been told in this version of AWDO from our senior management is that, Satoshi, can you make this much connected much stronger to the operation? The AWDO is always a nice publication showing that the progress of water security outside, but then how that number means to our client, how that number means to ADB, and how that number means to forging our partnership. And then this is really kind of the task that we had. And almost they are saying that if we couldn't forge it, just finish AWDO in this version. And we just don't need to do it anymore in 2030, 35, just forget it. So it was really a kind of bit of pressure on us to how to make this AWDO more operational. And as you see that the AWDO can actually, still we are analyzing the data, and then that's why we are a little bit soft launch, and then we have a proper launch in December. But then, we are kind of seeing that the AWDO has it's a strong tool that it can anchor our discussion with the government, of course. And then we also can carve out or cut it into the different pieces in a way that we can cut in a country to deep dive into the country assessment, where the weaknesses, where we can, mobilize the leaderships well in a way that, where the ADB's policy dialogue and then also investment should be focused. Or maybe not even ADB, working with other MDB colleagues, how MDB can play a role, or even academias, right, other partners where we can play a role. If you cut the AWDO into the KDs and just comparing with the KD1, rural water security, urban water security, like as I said, affordable discussion, maybe we might find that actually this region A country and then other region B country has a very similar issues they are facing, and they could actually learn each other. And then we have those instruments of the, for example, water operators or organizations, partnerships, the program that we can forge some peer-to-peer learning. I think that AWDO really can let us strategize where we want to navigate our region's water security in the coming 10 years. And then that's really, we see that strong instrument. And apparently, here all the partners that we have in this panel is something that we already discussed, right? The academias and organization and the government, we further would like to deepen our discussion through this AWDO experience. And then as Vivek mentioned that we have a small micro AWDO, linking more with our country partnership strategy. I think this is something that to come. And then we really want to use this as an anchor to, discuss with the different partners. Thanks.
Thanks, Satoshi. So I hear you, we can really focus on mobilize the tool AWDO to mobilize leadership, as well as to look into peer-to-peer learning. And of course, partnerships are key in making that happen. I'd like to head to Hank. Hank, as you have learned this morning, you're still playing with our fortune teller. I hope everybody likes it. The AWDO provides a grounded data-driven picture of water security across Asia and Pacific, while the Global Commission of the Economics of Water really calls for treating water as a global common good and reforming the economic value that we attach to this resource. So we are curious about your view. How can these high-level global economics frameworks translate into actionable strategies at the regional and in particular also at a national level?
Yeah, thanks. It's a complex question. But first of all, compliments to ADB and of course its partners for presenting AWDO. But also if you look at what the ADB is, how they takes it forward in the programming and planning. There's a important link to the last question of the panel before on leadership and Suzanne Smeyer's answer and the work of the Global Commission. Because AWDO showed in the context of water insecurity or security across these 5 levers where vulnerabilities and opportunities lie and how the different regions of Asia are performing. And at the same time, if you look at a program, the ADB is advancing in Central Asia, glacier to farm, it shows that water insecurity goes beyond systems. And this is where AWDO really starts to matter. And this is to Suzanne's point. If water matters for water people, we lost it. But if we understand how to, make that, increase that understanding beyond the water sector, how the value of water is for energy, for food, for climate, for finance, for cities, then things start to work. And when ADB is working with a country, it's of course the Minister of Finance at the end that has to sign off. But if you look at a program, Glacier to Farm, you really look across systems from this large environmental system, a glacier in the context of climate change risks, a river basin, groundwater, the economics around it, all the way to the sea and the delta with that urbanization. And the farm, perhaps not the smallest, but a very small component of a super large global food system. And those interdependencies cut across AWDO's 5 anchors, and at the same time show to a client beyond a Ministry of Water the importance of water security. And then to the work of the Commission, where we said it's not water, because we have a misinterpretation of water. We think water is what we see, but the water cycle really underpins the stability of our economy, our society, and our sectors. And that water cycle is unstable and increasingly more unstable, undermining every aspect of society. So that cycle, again, a systems approach, taps into where the 5 anchors of AWDO really try to strengthen the work. And I think if we match those systems understanding in the context of the leadership that we need, last question, first panel, and the way AWDO is helping to instrumentalize that now in programming, I think we have like a full circle in how this advances. So I think our work just adds perspectives, a lot of science and data, but also pathways forward on food, on land use and biodiversity, circular economy, transition of energy and health, that really we will both find in the programming of ADB and other partners, as well as in the findings of AWDO. So I think we're moving collectively in a more forceful way. And perhaps last, it's 2025, and I really like the first panel on its optimism. And I'm a born optimist, so this is, I feel at home. We're way better off globally. So those global conversations do matter in the context of how we are able to scale up massively the work on the ground. We have a 2026 and a 2028 water conference coming up. Conferences don't change the world, but the fact that we have them and be able to mobilize that leadership on that level really strengthened the opportunity and the capacity and the finance and the institutional parts on the ground too. So I think with all that effort and that commitment, we have a very optimistic future ahead, for sure. Yeah. But a lot of work. It's not so that's perhaps a lot. It's not easy, and AWDO shows it's not easy, but it's fine. We're super capable of dealing with that complexity. We shy away from complexity. No, don't. And I think this is where, within the leadership question, complexity should be your fall in love angle. Even on a personal level, boring people are not the first you're attracted to, right? So the complexity is an opportunity to say, wow, doing this will trickle down across so many other aspects of society. So it's the gem. The water cycle as a global common good is not problematic, but it's the gem. This is where we really can make a difference. So I think to that point too, speaking to leadership, complexity understanding and embracing really delivers results now, tomorrow, and the day after. So you create that opportunity. So I think we are definitely in a far better place. Yeah.
Thank you, Henk. I hear systems thinking. We're going to fall in love during our global conversations with leaders. And we stay positive to make it happen. Yeah? Thank you very much. Okay. Then I like to ask a question to Alex, my neighbor. I understood you're leading the Global Water Partnership shifts to action, from action to finance. Alex, we look forward to hearing your thoughts on how your organization can leverage AWDO's context-specific data and insights to mobilize water investments.
Can I borrow your mic?
Of course.
Great, thank you. Good question and a good conversation. So I'm exactly almost the same amount of time in my new job with my good friend, Cleo Kawawaki. I also started in February, and one of the first things I was given on my desk was a request from ADB to help with the country mapping of AWDO report. And I was like, if it's just another report, I'm not interested. Unless we can have a discussion around how this report can actually inform policy decisions and lead to investments. So I held it on my desk for about 2 weeks. And then we had a call with Satoshi, and we had a conversation, a friendly conversation. How is this report used? How has it been utilized? And I think I'm happy to say that the conversation here is now about how do we move this forward. And this is why Global Water Partnership, we will remain part of this, is because AWDO generates the evidence. But evidence alone does not lead to investments. What GWP can do, especially in the context of our new strategy, which is being launched on Tuesday, is to bridge between the diagnostics and the investments. And to do that, what GWP can do and other partners is to start translate the report and the data into comparing business cases that can be presented to decision makers, investors, policymakers, ministers of finance, even heads of states. Because this is how far we have to go. There is no big investments that will happen without the involvement of heads of states. This is what I've learned in the last 5 years of dealing with leaders under the high-level panel on water for, first of all, with Ban Ki-moon and Henk, and now with the Africa Investment Program, and last week with the G20, President Cyril Ramaphosa, who launched what is called the Global Outlook Council, whose one of the objectives, apart from mobilizing finance and investments, is to track progress, which is what we're doing. So bridging the finance, the data with the finance, the investments, and the policy is one of the things we can do. And now I think we have a very big opportunity. Not because me and Claire are new in this job. Of course, we bring fresh ideas about how we can take this to the next level. But also we have the opportunity that has been offered, the first ever Global Outlook Council on Water Investments at the level of the G20, chaired by the chair of the G20, Henk, we were together in Cape Town, bringing projects from countries that are analyzed by countries themselves and matchmaking with investors and trying to identify where are the gaps, what needs to be done, what needs government leadership, what reforms are needed, what needs heads of state intervention. And to do that, through the Global Investment Platform under the G20, under the Global Outlook Council on Water Investments, we will be preparing scorecards. Because if you look at the report, you can't present that to leaders. It's too detailed. You need a one page. So we will be presenting scorecards. Probably President Ramaphosa said annually. We'll see how we do that. But these scorecards will have to be presented to leaders to see where are the gaps, where are the bottlenecks, and where can we make progress. And then we can ride this momentum together. So as the Global Water Partnership, we've been fortunate to support this process under the Global Investment, Africa Investment Program, which I was heading for some time, which is now going to become a global investment platform. So we have the opportunity to scale this. And my offer here is let's join forces while we're here, see how we can brainstorm to take this further, because we have once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where we have water investments under the framework of the G20 with global leaders. Thank you.
I think that's a fantastic offer, Alex. Thank you very much. Evidence does not lead to investments, but we need to translate it to business cases. What I like, you mentioned heads of states as key important, but also private sector. And I think it's important we bring them along here as well. Thanks a lot. let's see how we're going to pick this up as ADB. I'm looking at you as well, Vivek. I think it's a nice opportunity to work on those scorecards together. Mr. Chanavana from the government of India, I'd like to ask you some questions because your perspective is maybe the most important one here in the panel. You bring a lot of administrative experience from your public governance work in India, and I think you're also can make use of AWDO to translate it in national planning. I'd like to ask you, because India has shown a significant improvements on water security since AWDO edition 2013. We have seen that also here on the screen when Vivek was presenting that. What key policies have helped India to improve water security? And what's being done for the remaining vulnerable populations?
Thank you, Tanya. So first of all, I would like to, thank you all for giving India the opportunity, and Vivek's presentation really gladdened my heart. But like others, I also have a few reservations about the AWDO outlook, which has already been raised that, omission of political leadership in quantification is very important, because what India has shown is that if there is political will, then in a very short time of a decade, we've been able to really transform not only water security, but also, provide a dignified and healthier life for its citizens. Water is a very important component in Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of 2047 for a developed, Viksit Bharat. So political will is something which needs to be aligned, and though I agree with the indexes and feel that we are quite aligned to all the index and parameters of the ADB, there is one thing which I would like to highlight before I highlight why India has done so well over the decade, is that, it's not only public investment, though we've had a $250 billion of public investment over the decade. It is also an innovative investment. There has been, Honorable Prime Minister's guidance has led us to launch a massive community-led action plan for rainwater harvesting and water conservation. And it has seen philanthropy as a mode of financing in a way like never before. So it's not that, of course, we need public investment, we need technical solutions, but if we look at, the centrality of the community and philanthropy as 10% of 2.7 million artificial recharge structures that has been built has come from philanthropy. People from the state of Gujarat have gone and invested in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, in Bihar. So it's called from your workplace to your birthplace, from Matrabhumi to your, from your Karm Bhumi to Matrabhumi is the project which has been inspired by Honorable Prime Minister's vision that water without people cannot, has no future. So he calls it Jan Andolan for Jal Andolan. But apart from those specifics, I would like to state that it all began in 2014, and the evidence is there for everyone to see that the Swachh Bharat mission has made the 6 lakh villages, 600,000 villages of India ODF free. And it has really changed behavior. And we are now going for, ODF plus, not just basic sanitation, but also grey water management and community behavior. Then PMKSY, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, addressed the water use efficiency. As we all know that agriculture is the biggest water guzzler in India. Likewise in the other nations. So water use efficiency has really increased because of sprinkler, drip irrigation, And over the years, our indicators have improved. Then we have Rajiv is sitting here, we have the DG, National Mission for Clean Ganga. You know, it's won the top 10 honors of the restoration flagships of the United Nations. It has come in a big way to, you know, to abate the pollution in rivers, and also nature-based ecological solution. And this with Amrut 2, the Atal mission for urban rejuvenation, which focuses on urban infrastructure, has led to an increase in our wastewater management. That is really, that was also launched in 2015. Then a slew of initiatives were launched in 2019. First, what Honorable Prime Minister did was that he merged the different, you know, sectoral departments in water into one Ministry of Jal Shakti, which is water power. Jal Shakti, Jal is water, Shakti is power. So there's one ministry now which looks at all the aspects of water. And second, what I don't think has been highlighted was which is one of the biggest missions in the world for providing clean water and safe drinking water. That is the Jal Jeevan mission. That has been given to 550 million people have been provided, rural households have been provided water, which was only 30 million in 2019. Then we have also launched the Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain campaign, of which Jal Sanchay Jan Bhagidari, which I was mentioning earlier, which looks at community, looks at you know, traditional wisdom in water. India is a country where there is a lot of traditional wisdom in water. I mean, we don't need to take our technology to the people. They have a lot of technology. So this is a community-intensified mission, and the remarkable progress of Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Catch the Rain, and Mission Amrit Sarovar and JSJB has been that over the years, 11.39 billion cubic meter of water has just been saved from these tanks, renovated tanks, ponds, and other water storage. So in India, the policy is now towards community. Of course, investments I've already talked about, and all these have shown in the SDGs, we have improved our score. Our overexploited blocks, our small regions have come down from you know, 17 to 11%, where groundwater was being depleted. Our wastewater treatment capacities have increased. Our integrated water resource management score has increased. So the key to success, if you ask me, Tanya, it has been political leadership, and it has been public investment. But most important has been community engagement and local empowerment, that people own their water, and traditional wisdom in the forefront. And of course, also decentralization. Water is a state subject, but a national concern. So our focus post-19 has been on decentralized water management. And those have been the reasons for the success. And that is all. Thank you. I think
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very impressive. And I love it how you touch on some great examples of how you connect technical insights, technical data, AWDO, to these human realities that we're facing. Sounds like music in my ears when you mentioned the communities and local ownership as most of the most important driving forces here. Thank you for that. Then I like to head to the other Alex, Alex Money from Watermarks and Oxford University. Alex, you're going to bridge the research and the investment. And of course, we're very interested to hear more about how countries implement shadow pricing for water, and especially in countries where data is limited or tariff reforms is politically sensitive.
Thanks very much, Tanya. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you all. I'm going to make 3 points, if I may. The first point is a point about framing. The second is a point about data. And the third is a point about implementation. On the framing point, I just want to pick up, again, what Suzanne was touching on. Henk spoke about Alex and the Honorable Secretary, which is, in water security, we typically frame things from a risk perspective, right? A risk management, risk mitigation, et cetera. But exactly as people have been saying, to engage political leadership, to engage philanthropic capital, to engage governments, to engage the private sector, you need a return framing as well. It's absolutely critical to move things on. I was at a breakfast meeting with CDP this morning, and they presented they do this annual survey for companies and so on. The improving water security is a benefit to cost ratio is 6 to 1. Okay, this is and they put some numbers up. That's fine. Good to know that. We're all happy to hear that. But unless you can disaggregate that and define what are the benefits and what are the costs, because 6 to 1 will cover some things that have 10 to 1, 20 to 1, other things like 2 to 1, 1 to, that'll be how the data is. So disaggregating that to understand where's the return opportunity for the given cost. Because that lets you then define who can fund what and why they should be funding it. There'll be some things which only governments have the capacity, and India is such a wonderful example of what is achieved in this last 10 years. But there'll be things that it is for government to do. There'll be things that the diaspora and remittances and all of these things that we talk about, philanthropic capital, et cetera, is there to do. There'll be things that corporates, with their foreign direct investment, or whatever they're doing, direct investment, are there to do. There'll be things that banks and the private sector. So you need the framing of understanding return at a granular level, which brings you down, well, how do you do that? You need the data. And this is why I really commend AWDO and the work that AWDO has done, not just once, twice, 3, 6, is it? 5, sorry, so far. Is what it is giving an evidentiary base, right? It is actually collecting information by leading academics systematically to actually think about not just what the costs associated are, but what the actual benefits are. And what this next generation of technology and tools, agentic AI and so on, is going to give us context to be able to take that sort of information and actually understand materiality. Where is the investment opportunity? How are the returns? Which talks about what Alex's ambitions are with GWP and the Global Council. Data drives these things, but data that is empowered for leadership to do things with it and then unlock the block. So this is the great thing. And this is where I think AWDO is doing a really important piece of work. Finally, it's about implementation. And this is kind of my own interest is you can say all of that, but what are you actually going to do? And this idea of valuing water, understanding is not just the volume of water being consumed, but who is using it, when they are using it, where they are using it, and most importantly, for what purpose they are using it. It makes no sense to price water the same for the rural community village user to an industrial corporate. How does that make sense when they're extracting different levels of value? To make the financial sustainability of the sector work, we have to recognize the value of water. And one of the ways to look at that is around shadow pricing. I won't go into that too much detail now, but that's a project that we're very keen to develop, and we're talking to ADB and others about that. But this is the thing. So it's to recognize that the real opportunity here is in the framing of water security has returns as well as risk mitigation. It's to understand what data can do and recognize that today is different to 2 years ago, 5 years ago, in terms of our capabilities to leverage that data for outcomes. And the third is to do this stuff, right? Not just to talk about this stuff. Produce implementable tools, metrics, data, whatever it takes to actually engage leadership so that things can happen.
Thank you, Alex. Now I understand why you're the last one in this panel, bringing everything together. Much appreciated there. And I think the key message is just to do it, right?
Let's do it.
All right. Given the time, I see Vivek also looking at me. Can we do one question? Yeah, one question? Can we do? Yeah, one question. Any young professional that dares to take a question? Please go ahead. You have a mic? Well.
Hi, thank you everyone. I'm Tania Imran, representing Future Water from the Netherlands. Originally, I'm from Pakistan. I am quite surprised because I work a lot around water accounting, water security, but I don't see transboundary cooperation in any of these indicators. So we're talking about water security, we're talking about rural, urban, environmental, but we're not really talking about transboundary and how it affects water security, especially because it's a key in advancing global security. And when we talk about water going beyond systems, I think it is part of the conversation that can't be missed. And this is also a more specific question, like for instance, India has achieved a lot in the past decade or 5 years, which is a great achievement because of course everyone has the right to water. But how would, let's say, the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty in the recent times be viewed in the context from the Indian government when we are talking about water security around the world? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe first to Satoshi in terms of transboundary and the AWDO
Sure, okay.
relation there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have to say there is a bit of political element to there. Of course, you know, I hate to say, but apparently, right, I mean, we are an international organization. Anyway, so AWDO is apparently framed in a country. Right, that's the reason why, of course, you know, there's a less regional cooperation element. But of course, as a ADB, one of the 5 pillars that we have to play a role in a coming, you know, the strategy is the regional cooperation. And then actually, we have been using AWDO. As I say, AWDO can cut in a different way, you know, the country and then also KD. One of the things we are cutting is a region, actually, so that we are also trying to looking at, for example, the correct region, the Central Asia, you know, Economic Cooperation region, GMS, the Greater Mekong sub-region. We actually are, you know, putting the AWDO into the frame that how we can foster the regional cooperation. Of course, you know, it's very important that the, you know, those transboundary element is coming. Another way of cutting, I just don't know whether we can continue raising expectation, but another way to cut it is a river basin. Actually, we are also, you know, seeing that the AWDO, we're going to go into the subnational level. I have to say, India, China, one index, right? People are challenging. How come you can talk about India in one index or China in one index, right? Apparently, there are a lot of subnational, like, deep dive is necessary, and then maybe, you know, deep dive into the river basin level is necessary, and some of the river basin are transboundary as well. So this is also the way that, of course, AWDO is a country water security assessment and exercise, but then it's really up to us how we are going to cut and then also bundle it and assemble it to create our policy discussion, and also, you know, raising awareness, maybe also, you know, the mobilizing the leadership as well. So that's how we are going to move forward. Hopefully, we are moving forward, and then we hope that we can, you know, partner with more people on that front.
And also, if I could just add, Satoshi, AWDO is a public good. There was many ways in which we could do more with the data, but one of the main principles we had was don't let better get in the way of good, right? So the idea was that how can we provide what we have been able to do with these 5 key dimensions, and to be able to put it out there with a certain amount of confidence that we are, you know, with this methodology. And we encourage all our partners to be able to slice this data in any which way. And in December, all of this data sets is going to be released and made public, right? Tanya, maybe we can end this panel.
I was about to say, I like to ask a big applause for this panel. Thank you very much. And to be continued. I think there are many topics that we still need to discuss. I'd like to hand over to you, Vivek, for the final closing remarks.
No, there's one.
You will announce it?
Yeah. Ma'am, if I could just ask Ms. Archana Verma, who is the additional secretary, and you all heard her in this panel, to provide us a little bit of a way forward from all of this. We thought it would be important to get your perspective and also give you an opportunity to talk a little bit from the government's perspective and go a little bit more into some of the words that you shared in the question that was posed to you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I may be keeping you from your lunch, but I'll try to hurry it forward. Actually, I'm shamelessly using this platform to talk about India's water journey more than, you know, takeaways from this whole panel. Maybe from this water journey, you can, you know, get a sense of the AWDO's indicators and the learnings that India has had in the last decade. So our national water indicators indicate that we have very little percentage of the geographical area, but we have a huge population and a huge livestock and very limited freshwater resources. Our rainfall behavior is also very erratic, and that has been exacerbated with the climate change impact. More than 70% of our annual flows in the rivers is during the monsoon, and around 50% of rainfall is just in 15 days despite hundreds days of monsoon. So you can imagine the kind of time we have to ensure that we store water. We have humongous challenges confronting our groundwater. Our live water storage capacity is only 209 meter cube compared to 5,000 meter cube of US. 60% of our irrigation needs, 85% of our rural drinking water needs, and 50% of our urban water need is from groundwater. And extraction is more than US and China combined. We extract 260 BCM of our groundwater. So in this challenging scenario and limited freshwater availability in a spatial and temporal rainfall environment, Honorable Prime Minister's vision for a developed India has a strong component of water security and water management, and it is based basically, I can say, on the 4 E's: efficiency, equity, economics, and environmental sustainability. And we already have our flagships, which I talked about. Jal Jeevan Mission is one of our biggest campaigns for rural household drinking water. We have Namami Gange, which is again one of the biggest river rejuvenation projects. We have the Atal Bhujal Yojana, which is a World Bank assisted groundwater management project with community and the panchayat at the center. And our dream is for achieving holistic water governance. We have moved, and I think we may have moved a little further, Vivek. We moved from 3 to 3.7. So that's all good on those indicators. On SDGs, we have moved a lot. Our score has improved. And as I've already said, 6 lakh villages have achieved the open defecation-free status. The Swachh Bharat Gramin mission has been talked about. These are the statistics. I'll not go into it. But we are now going in for Swachh Bharat Gramin Plus, more than just basic sanitation, grey water management, and behavioral change. Jal Jeevan Mission also, we have achieved a lot, of course. And you know, it has also impacted on the women and children, and in terms of diarrheal death has been reduced. That is WHO study. It has impacted in terms of economic growth. $101 billion have been added, and it has actually transformed the lives of women and girls who really had to walk miles or drop out of schools because of non-access to drinking water. Then I've already said this, that only because of community, our groundwater sustainability, we've been able to reduce our exploited blocks. We've been able to, save, recharge phenomenally just through community-led participation. Then Namami Gange has had this honor of top 10 world restoration flagships under the UN decade, and it has done a lot for abatement of pollution. And the proof of pudding is that the dolphins, the hilsa fish, has come back to the Ganges. Then this I've already talked about, that at the heart of water policy of India, and which should also be at the heart of perhaps the developing nations, is that you should put community at the center of all your water initiative effort. In economic security, we have gone in for Prime Minister Krishi Sinchai Yojana, which is irrigation project, more crop per drop, and it has led to increase in, and you know, Har Khet Ko Pani, where all the farm fields have to end-to-end irrigation for small and marginal farmers, Sahi Fasal for water-efficient crops, and we have improved our score here too. We are coming up with a pilot right now, which is very exciting. It's called Modernization of Command Area Development in Water Management Projects. Our projects, canal projects, are functioning at a suboptimal capacity of 35 to 36%. And that is why we are now going to use SCADA, we are going to use Internet of Things and satellite monitoring with Water User Association at the center, so that we go in for this efficient irrigation with people at the center, with livelihood opportunities for them too. On hydropower, we have challenges, but 10% comes from our water. Now, this is one of the most politically sensitive in India or in any other country. You talk of tariff, and it is really, really sensitive. So when we are, you know, developing outlooks, we should, or developing parameters, we should also look at what are the challenges. And one is political sensitivity to tariff, but I'm happy to say that Maharashtra Water Resource Authority and Gujarat and Karnataka have taken baby steps to ensure that there's water tariff pricing, there's volumetric pricing, and there's differential tariff. And urban water security I've already talked about. Our focus is on sewerage treatment and also on reduction of non-revenue water. And these are the factors for affecting environmental security. Our on integrated, IWRM, we are increasing our score, focusing on basin level planning, maybe cannot be out of the boundary of the country, but within. And the environmental flows, we are ensuring under Namami Gange that certain 25% is left for the rivers. Integrated planning, we are focusing. Demand management. We work on the 5 mantras. It is called respect, reduce, recycle, recharge, and one more I forgot. So these are the 5 mantras of demand side management, which I think in the AWDO outlook also needs to be, emphasized more, as one of my earlier speaker, Mr. Alex Money, was talking about, that, these things have to be factored. And in disaster preparedness, we are monitoring glacial lake outburst floods and doing irrigation studies. And so there are lots of wonderful things which India is doing, and creating resilience to water disaster.
We have to prepare for the next
session.
Yeah. Thank you.
The only thing, then I'll just, please visit India International Water Week 2026. It's from 22nd to 26th, and we would love to see you there. Thank you. I'm sorry for exceeding.
Very much for that. We're going to see you in IWA in Bangkok for the official launch, and I thought this was a great start to Stockholm World Water Week, not only for ADB, but I hope all of you had some takeaways from this session. Thank you and enjoy your lunch. Sorry to the organizers that we ran late.